Hello, good evening once again, and welcome to our round 4 edition of the Nick and Mo Show. But you don't have to be particularly eagle-eyed to notice that my co-host this evening is, in fact, none other than ex-Ireland international Jenny Murphy. Mo is doing a bit of travelling with England, so it's a very good evening to Jenny. How are you?
Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Massive shoes to fill, but I'll give it a crack.
No, I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine. How are you? What's going on? What's going on with you these days?
Not too bad. Just enjoying the lack of sunshine in Ireland here, and some decent rugby and some not so decent rugby. So good mix, Six Nations time, and it's even longer than it was last year. So all good, I love the two windows. I think more time to kind of make a proper groove on the couch. So I'm happy
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've certainly seen some slightly drier tracks and the opportunity for there to be a little bit more running rugby played, haven't we? And an interesting time for Irish rugby. Obviously, we sort of have come from perhaps a little painful period over the last few months into what are hopefully perhaps green shoots for the future. We'll come on to discuss the game with England and where Ireland are at a bit later. But it's certainly an interesting time, isn't it?
Yeah, there's loads of changes, new coaching staff, and kind of new standards being set out. Hopefully, another report coming out this summer, and you can see genuine improvement and more ambition for the women's game. I think sometimes the bar has been set that little bit low, and we want to. Yeah, we want to be playing really strong rugby, and we want to be competing and aiming for silverware. So there's still a while for a ways to go, but hopefully we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, certainly. Well, listen, Jenny, we're really grateful for you joining us this evening. Thank you very much for stepping in. Don't know where we'd be without you. Let's, for those of you that may have had your heads in the sand, let's just remind ourselves of what has gone on this weekend, of course. Let's bring up the round 4 results then, if we can, please, Matt. That's great. Our clever producer, Matt, who is hovering in the background. So there we are, our Friday night game. Game on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday this weekend, of course. And Friday night in Cardiff, it was Wales 5, France 33. Again, another slow improvement from Wales. Those point differences in these scores are getting narrower. Italy, Scotland, I was over there in Parma commentating on that one. Italy 20, Scotland 13. Scotland, they had over 60% territory in possession for many periods of that match. And they just didn't seem to be able to turn that into points, started losing discipline later in the game and allowed Italy back into it. But great news for Italy. We've expected more of them over the course of this championship. And finally, they have managed to get a W on the board. It was a very wet second half as the wind and rain came in as well. But Italy winning that one. And then on Sunday, Ireland put up quite the fight during that first half, managing to get in at ruck and maul and cause all sorts of problems for England. Just 10-0 at half time, but then a full 69-0 with England putting pedal to the metal. 50 caps for Leanne Infante and 100 caps for the Centurion Emily Scarratt. So that was all to enjoy. We can then bring that through to the table then and see how that has set things up ahead of the final round. It is England who are top with 20 points alongside France, maximum points from every game. Then Wales are in third, an opportunity to really cement that coming up in Super Saturday. They're at home to Italy. Ireland then are in fourth with their one win. And then Italy there in fifth with 4 points. Scotland with 2, having got 2 losing bonuses. So interesting as well to note in that table, in fact. I was looking at this earlier. You notice Italy are on minus 121 points. That tells quite a story about how much they've underperformed, I think. And actually, Matt, let's just run through the player of the match awards that we had over the course of the round. It started on Friday night with Laure Sansus. She's quite the player, isn't she, Jenny?
Oh, she's absolutely electric. I think that pairing of herself and Jessie Tremillier has been really something. She can make something out of nothing, really attacks the game line so aggressively, and I think it's going to be a pretty good battle with whoever gets that 9 jersey for England at the weekend.
Yeah, it certainly is. So, Laure Sansus doing the business for France again at the weekend. Then we can go on to the Italy-Scotland game, and it was Michaela Sillari, or Sillari. I will get that right. I do get it right in commentary, but it's just so tempting to say Sillari. It just sounds so Italian. But yes, it was Michaela Sillari who was player of the match there. She just seemed to be everywhere. She was shooting out the line and making dominant tackles, and she was managing to get Italy on the front foot going forwards. But it was a great performance from her. And then on Sunday, I don't know how many more Player of the Match nominations Marley Packer is going to win in her illustrious career. I think there were 2 or 3 from England who could have perhaps had this, but she just continues to dominate. You'll have had a few battles with Marley Packer over your time, won't you, Jenny?
Yeah, my lungs and ribs would definitely have experienced Packer's shoulder. Yeah, she's just an unbelievable competitor, and someone that you have to be wary of when you're facing them, and you've got someone like that in the back row. So yeah, and she's racked up a few. It's almost selfish how many of those Player of the Matches she has, but we'll see.
I agree entirely. Let someone else have a go, Marley, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's. We're going to start a little bit chronologically this week. We will have a look back at that Wales game on Friday night. And Matt, if you can bring in our special guest, our first of the evening, alongside Jenny, of course. And it is Rachel Taylor, former player, of course, and former assistant coach. How are you, Tails?
I'm very well. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you. You're here with Jenny.
Hey, Tails.
How are you? You well?
Not too bad. Yeah, I can't complain. I'm really glad we texted each other beforehand. We're like, let's wear the khaki. Yeah. And matching. Good luck. Good luck. Yeah.
Yeah, got that covered off. Well, Rachel, how are you? What are you up to at the moment?
Yeah, good. I've actually just been to the gym, so that was good. And obviously just come off holiday. The reason for the khaki t-shirt, try and show off the tan. So no, just a really nice Easter break actually. But yeah, aren't we blessed? We just got so much rugby. It's just back-to-back games. It's brilliant.
Where did you get off on your hollybobs?
Went to Lanzarote for a week.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, so it was really nice. It was really nice. And then we're straight back in with a couple of rugby camps for literally the morning we got back. So, back with a bang.
Yeah, keeping it real. What did you make then of what you saw on Friday night? Obviously, we know that France are a different proposition as England are. It does seem to be that we talk fairly freely now about it being 2 teams and then 4 teams. But this does seem to be a Wales side that is growing in confidence. There does seem to be a bit more of that connectivity, and I was thinking to myself today whether the nature of these professional contracts, we've spoken earlier in previous shows about how even the psychological mindset of knowing that your union now cares a little bit more. You're not just playing for the shirt, you're playing for the people that have backed you as well. And actually how much that could be to blame for and could play a major part in what could be, if they go well at the weekend, 3 wins in this Women's Six Nations Championship.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, whatever the outcome really on the weekend, 2 wins in comparison to the last tournament is a massive and should be a massive boost to those players. I think you're right about the contract stuff. We probably saw a little glimpse of that, didn't we, in the Italians this weekend just gone. And it does have a huge psychological effect, and it can give you a team a real lift. And I think that's probably what makes the game on the weekend a little bit more spicy, is that they're both sort of in similar positions. Wales perhaps slightly a few months ahead, but should make it quite a good one.
Yeah, it certainly should. I was thinking if there was going to be a player that might have got a player of the match nod despite being on the losing side, your old mate Sinead Harries is certainly proving to be a good acquisition back in that Welsh squad, isn't she?
Yeah, she's been brilliant. It's a great dilemma to have in Wales at the moment. There's all the talk around, is it Siwan starting, is it Sinead starting, and that back row. Yeah, there's just so many different combinations of it, I suppose. I think Friday, it was always going to be difficult against France. You've already mentioned their stature, if you like, within the women's game. But, Sinead's try in the last dying seconds of the game, just shows the amount of heart and courage that they've got. And I think they wouldn't have expected to turn France over. They were probably looking more for performance. There's probably a few things they won't be pleased with. The set piece sort of stuttered a little bit, which I think they'll get a bit frustrated with. Quite a few missed tackles and a few line breaks that they'll need to sort of shore up that defensive midfield again before the weekend. But yeah, on the whole, I was probably more surprised at France, to be honest. I genuinely thought they actually made quite a few errors. I know that first half they were pretty on fire, like their speed of ball was insane. And obviously Sansus is Sansus. I think she's worth a quote of her own by now. But yeah, I thought they were a little bit uncharacteristic, and I expected a little bit more from them in the second half. And I think that's, again, might make it the difference between them and England at the moment. England just seem ruthless. No matter what happens, they keep putting points on people. But France haven't really shown that kind of 80 minutes of intense play yet. So yeah, it's going to be a really good Super Saturday, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is.
And like apart from that, like error strewn second half from France that they were a little bit shaky and maybe don't look like the polished article, coming up to Italy final game wanting to end on a high, for you, what do you think is going to be a successful day at the office for the Welsh girls?
Yeah, I don't think they need to press the panic button on the set piece. That's been going well overall. It would probably just be a little bit of fine tuning of that during this week. I think the scrum will be a really interesting battle between, Italy. You looked at like Guy Bertoni, like 80-minute performances, and their catch drive just turned into a beast of its own in their last match. So I think Wales will want to try and get a stranglehold there. There was little moments when they tried to play quite loose against France and they just got punished. So whether, we've seen little glimpses of Italy do that, haven't we? When it gets loose, they look good. So it's whether they sort of stick to that structure or whether they try and play a bit more freely. But I think either way, you'd probably back Wales for me on the weekend. I think although we have been hyping up Italy this entire tournament and they haven't quite lit that fire just yet, have they? So they might come out and have an absolute blinder, but I think it'll be a really close game without a doubt. But I'd probably nudge Wales.
Yeah, I would expect you to, and though things would be wrong if you weren't, Tail. I mean, there was one thing you sort of mentioned a few elements there from that France game, and there was one period I noticed. It was as the French came around the corner, the Welsh backline just seemed to be backing off on their own try line, and I just thought it was when Tremoulier came around and then just dummied and went through, and I just thought, where's the ambition to get up and get into the guts and hit that, have the ambition to try and make that. And we're seeing these players, some of them playing in the Allianz Premier 15s, and they're doing a brilliant job defensively for their club. And I wonder how much of that does start to become a mental issue. Is it, we know you're strong, we know you're good, we need to I don't know, get across the field, try and drift, make sure that we're trying to close the gaps. But that ambition to get off the line and just make those hits just seem to be a little bit lacking at times.
Yeah, definitely. In that area of the pitch, like it's not, Murph will tell you, it's not a case of linking up and drifting out. Like you don't get that option there. You've got to get off the line. You've got to hit something. You've got to try and force an error, otherwise it's a try conceded. And it is a massive mental part of the game. I think, we saw that the Irish players have that mental switch where they didn't allow England that luxury of that kudos, if you like, and that ability to carry. Like, obviously some of the French players are big physical athletes, which are difficult to bring down. But yeah, they're going to have a want and a passion to get off the line and to hit stuff. Even Solari, as you've just made me say, like her physical stature, like she's not the biggest player on the pitch, but some of her tackling on the weekend was insane. Just the want to get off the line and to chop. And I think it'll be an interesting defensive battle whether Italy really come at them, because I think, like you said, there was moments where Wales stood off, and it could be a massive risk to allow that to happen.
Yeah. So how do you see it going then? What's your overall view on how things might go to kick off Super Saturday?
Yeah, I think I'm excited to see some of the players. For Italy as well. I don't know how we'll go as far as selection. We haven't seen everybody. You look at, we had conversations around France and England making loads of changes and having that strength and depth. We haven't done a lot of change in Wales. There's been a few tweaks, but nothing massive. So be interesting to see if we try and rotate, or my gut feeling is that Johan Cunningham will want to go for the win and probably not rotate as much as we perhaps want to see some other players given an opportunity. But I think selection is massive. I think midfield combinations, you've got Rigoni having all the hype, but, Solari having that opportunity to sort of fly under the radar, be a massive combination. And then scrum, I can't wait to see the scrum. I think that's going to be huge. I think that'll be the massive part of where the game is won and lost on the weekend.
And do you have like a particular matchup that you want to keep an eye on, like there's going to be a battle between these two during the game at all?
Yeah, I think like obviously selection dependent. I think it's really exciting to see that front row combo go against each other. I don't know what combo they'll go in, because obviously Bertoni played prop on the weekend. Whether she drops back into a hooker, I'm not sure. But you've got Sirani coming back in after a knee surgery as well. So, her versus that front row is pretty exciting of Wales. They had a tough time against France. I think 6 penalties conceded at scrum. So they're going to have a massive point to prove. So, yeah, full front row against full front row. I cannot wait.
Yeah,
Classic
brilliant.
forward answer. Classic
Yeah, I know,
forward.
such a forward boring answer.
Like
that.
just
Sorry.
like three people hitting against each other, but no one really knows what's going on there.
Should we talk about lineup? Should we talk about catch drive instead? Because that's like, who knows? Can't wait.
Yeah. Oh, they're doing the lifty thing on the side. Cool, yeah.
Yeah, great. I mean, we're going to move on to talk about Ireland. I mean, Rachel, I was going to sort of chat about it with Jenny, but if you've got a couple of minutes, then by all means stay with us. I mean, Jenny, let's just move on to talk about the England-Ireland game, and obviously Ireland. I think I tweeted at the time. I don't think anyone was expecting a 10-0 score at half time.
No, to be fair, like a lot of the Irish media and stuff had written off the team before they even stepped out onto the pitch. And like when you look at the teams on paper and the results leading up to that game, you can kind of understand why. And then the change-ups with the squad, people going in and out in key positions. But they did so well. There was so much grit and tenacity in that first half. But like when you're having to tackle that amount and be like on the wrong side of the ball for 40 minutes against what's an extremely powerful, the world's best team, eventually something's got to give. But like if they're able to put in another 40 at the weekend, I think they're going to be doing really well. I'm so proud of them, and just considering with all the stuff going on in the background as well. Yeah, the second half was really disappointing, and like obviously fans and onlookers would be gutted, but the girls even more so because they know that they're capable of more. But yeah, it was a good start, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see us holding off, especially like getting a try, leaking a try in like 2 minutes. It's so easy for the heads to drop, and they didn't. Yeah, plenty of positives to take from the first 40.
And a question to both of you, really. Do you think that this TikTok Women's Six Nations has become a championship where we're really having to make sure we tell the right stories over these games? Because there are still some of these big scorelines, which we know in terms of promoting the game and trying to get new fans to it, aren't necessarily the greatest look. But how teams like Wales and Scotland and Ireland and I think Italy slightly a separate case this championship, but how these teams are narrowing the gap, how the scorelines are coming down, how the nature of rolling out the red carpet and allowing teams to come bowling through has started to change. That is positive, even if sometimes trying to get that story past what looks like a one-sided scoreline can be quite challenging. Is that where we are, I think, at this point?
I'll jump in, Tails. You want to catch on? But I think the fact of the matter is England and France have set the bar high, and it's up to the other nations to catch up. Yeah, sometimes it doesn't make for amazing viewing. If you're flicking through the channels and you see a 50-0 scoreline, you might move on and look for something a little bit more competitive. That's not England's fault or France's fault that they're playing some beautiful rugby, and sometimes it's a hot knife through butter. That's on the other unions to invest in certain areas and look at how they can improve. But at the same time, the media has been amazing in terms of promoting the game. We're learning a lot more about the players involved. I think that's one of the best assets that this Women's Six Nations have, is the actual players. When you market them right and you get to know them, there's some unbelievable players on the teams, not just skill set wise, but really interesting characters that let people know more about them. That would be my kind of take on it anyway.
Yeah, anything to add, Tails?
No, I think it's just been really interesting, isn't it? Seeing some of the stuff around social media today about, a lot of the girls going back to work and not having a day off. And, you put it into context, and obviously, like Murph will know that's how it used to be, but that's not how it is anymore. And I think, you've got to have a massive appreciation for what the media have done in that storytelling, because I think it's been really good, and it has put the onus on unions or the pressure, if you like, on unions to raise their game. And, you see it with the Wales contracts, and then shortly following, you've got the Italian contracts, and this is ultimately like the direction the game needs to go in. And I think having that Six Nations window in a different time has allowed that focus to be on it, which I think has been brilliant. And can't have to say, like Murph said about the Irish players, like that first 40 minutes, that was some stint. Like they should be really, really proud of that, and what potential they've got to take forward is massive. But I think it is really important that everyone knows they went back to work on Monday. And that's where the game is, and you're right, it's not up to England to slow down. It's not up to France to slow down. It's about everyone else to catch up. So I think it's only a good thing.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, listen, we really appreciate you joining us, Rachel. Getting a chance to show off the tan and the fresh gym physique. It's what
She's just done bicep curls. That's all she does in the gym. She says that she deadlifts, but it's bicep curls in front of the mirror and then self tan. Like, I'm going to call it out. Come on, Tim.
I haven't done leg day in a solid 4 or 5 years, I don't think.
Yeah, well, it's not visible on a Zoom call, is it? So what's the point? What's the point? Rachel, thanks a lot. Enjoy the last round of the TikTok Women's Six Nations.
Guys.
Great to have you with us. Really appreciate it. Now then, while it is brilliant to have Jenny with us this evening, and there was an opportunity a little earlier on to catch up with my regular co-host, a certain Mo Hunt, who was in, an undisclosed location and alongside a man who is, he's known women's rugby in and out for many, many years as well. He is, of course, the host of the Women's Rugby Pod, Johnnie Hammond. So let's hand over to me. Well, thank you from me. Yes, Mo is joining us live from an interestingly different location to normal, and we have the man from the Women's Rugby Pod, the estimable Mr. Johnnie Hammond. How are you, Johnny, first of all?
Very, very well, thank you. Yeah, thoroughly enjoyed the rugby over the weekend, and the sun is shining, and the week is starting well. Big old week, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. And Mo, tell us where you are.
Just sat in Wagamama's in Heathrow, so we're on travel day today, getting us to France. So yeah, the girls we've piled in, so we're all here, just about to have some food.
Do they normally make you sit at a table on your own?
Yeah, it's really sad.
That's true.
They quite often banish me. It's really, really quite a shame. But...
Excellent. And what have you ordered? What do you go for? What's your Wagamama standard?
Chicken gyoza and edamame, but that's for later because we've got a long day ahead of us. And then pad thai for now. So yeah, the classics.
Got me a pad thai and Wagamama's, isn't it?
Brilliant. Now, it was quite the day yesterday on Sunday, and a decent result, certainly powered through to perhaps what we expected in that second half. And a certain mate of yours had quite a big day as well. Is Madam Scarratt around at all?
Yeah, she is. Scuzzy. Give the people what they want. 2 secs, we'll get her in. We'll get her in.
Look at this. Double rugby royalty.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Oh, she's dropping her ears.
You ruined it.
It's what you like. Bad language from our Centurion. Excellent. Hi, Emily.
AirPods.
You need to sit your heads together so that we can hear you both. That's it. Excellent. The two twins. Look at them. Emily, has the dust settled on yesterday?
It has. Oh, sorry.
Yes, no, obviously we're straight back on the road, so it kind of kicks you straight back into reality. But yeah, it was a mad day. Like, I couldn't imagine something like that. One, the 100 capture happened, but two, how it happened at the venue, the hotel, all of that, the whole thing was great.
Yeah.
We haven't actually spoke about this either. How was it getting your cap off your dad?
Yeah, it was cool. Like, everyone was like, I'm not a massively emotional person.
Mo, you might need to give your headphone to Scaz because the microphone is on your side. There we go.
Sorry.
Yeah, it was because everyone was asking me like, you're going to get emotional. I'm not a crazy emotional person at the best of times. And then when I saw my dad, I was like, oh, here we go, because he's really soft. He's the soft one of the family. But I think because of the nature of how it was done, obviously there's a big crowd of people that were still on the pitch. Like, no one really said anything. So I think it was if someone was going to make a speech and say some words, that probably would have got me. But yeah, it was very cool to have all the family there. There's a lot more kind of extended family behind all the crowds and stuff as well. So yeah, it was very special.
And got yourself a bit of a shiner there, haven't you?
I know. That was early doors in the game. First couple of minutes, got a stray boot to the face. So I thought I'd lost my eyeball to the back of my head and whacked it so hard. But thankfully, everything was fine.
Yeah, good. Well, go on, Johnny.
No, I was just going to say, Emily, huge congratulations. We're not spoken, but yeah, hopefully you're going to have you on the pod this week. But where do you think you are? It's a huge year, isn't it, for you guys? And in terms of your form and you coming back, I know you set yourself incredibly high standards. Where do you think you are in your sort of return to your top level Skazingtons?
Yeah, like I'm pretty happy with where things are. Obviously, you always want to have as many involvements as you possibly can in games and make those the best that they can be. There's always stuff that I'll not be happy with, but that's kind of the same for my entire career. So that won't change. But I think the biggest test will be this weekend. Against the top other side in the Six Nations. So you've got to step up. You've got to kind of bring it in those pressure games. There's going to be a tough, hostile crowd out there, which is always makes life more difficult in terms of those conditions. So yeah, they're the tests we want. You want to play in the big stages on when it really matters. So,
and there's no one better than our Emily at that, so we're good.
Excellent. Well, listen, we're going to let you get back to your squid, Emily. It's been brilliant to have you just join us briefly. It's there. It's arrived. So hand us back to Mo. And as you do that, we wish you well for the week anyway. Safe travels to France.
Thank you very
enjoy
much.
Your squid.
Thanks,
and
guys.
We'll jump back in with Mo. In the meantime, Johnnie, I mean, while we've got you with us, obviously, what have you made of the TikTok Women's Six Nations so far? And I guess a bit of our focus is on England during this discussion.
Yeah, of course. Look, I think we divide it into kind of two parts: off the field and on the field. Off the field, I don't think even the most avid of people who are immersed in the women's game expected to be quite the trajectory has risen the way that it has over the last few weeks. I don't think all the buzz and media attention across social media, I think it's unprecedented, and a lot of us have been pushing water up a mountain for a long time, and actually it's absolutely delightful to see, and it just gives you a huge spring in your step. In terms of the rugby, I think it's been exceptional. It's been some excellent games. For me, the most disappointing team is England, just not quite firing on all cylinders. There you are, Mo. Yeah, right, little smile. But look, I think there's huge expectations for England, and this weekend is going to be massive. But no, I've thoroughly enjoyed watching Wales and the dark places they've been, and just the smiles on their faces and the interaction with the crowd. But Ireland as well. That first 40 minutes were good. And Italy, of course, getting their win at the weekend, which was really pleasing for them off the back of getting contracts as well. So, look, 12 out of 10 off the field, a good 9.5 out of 10 on the field.
Oh, I think we've lost Mo's audio. Have I lost Mo's audio? Oh,
I am not sure what happened then. Sorry.
There she is.
2 questions for you. One, what gets the other half on the field?
For me?
Yeah, 9.5. What's the 10?
Look, I think more continuity. I think France have played quite individualistic in terms of their wins, and I think England at certain times as well. With their unbelievable kicking game, unbelievable driving maul, unbelievable set piece, you can win games, and that's fine. But actually, when it's gone a little bit wider, again, are we seeing that interlinking that and the fluidity that possibly we want to, or again, is it a little bit more individualistic and players playing off their sort of cuff rather than actually sort of some fluid backline stuff? So yeah, that gives me the 0.5, I think.
Yeah, love it. Love the honesty. My second question, you mentioned about the media getting attention and the crowds flocking in. What do you think do you think the crowds have come because the media is driven so much more, or is it vice versa? Because I find this such a fascinating discussion.
Look, obviously my line of work to put it out there, and we've been at games, haven't we, Mo, commentating, and there's a couple of hundred people back in the day, but we started to get club rugby out there and international rugby out there, and I think the streaming of the best league in the world, the Premier 15s, but that's not just a British thing. Ireland are streaming all their games, the AIL, the provincial stuff. South Africa stuff, Super Sport are putting the women's games out there. Super W just happened this weekend. Stan Sport put all the bells and whistles on it. So we've asked for commitment from broadcasters. I still think there's quite a bit more to give, but I think that exposure, and also, it's an investment, and again, a few people are committed to that. The likes of TikTok, whether you dance in front of a camera and post it on social media or not, all those bits and pieces, but actually a company of that kind of size with that kind of reputation wading in just speaks volumes. Oh, yeah, it makes people take note. And we've asked for commitment from people, whether they be companies or broadcasters, and there's a little bit of that out there. Still more to come.
Good. Yeah, totally agree. Listen, the nature of the Nick and Mo show is that we're in and out pretty quick because we like to get a quick, slick show on the go. So, listen, Johnny, it's been really, really good to have you with us. Mo, delighted to have found out what you've ordered at Wagamama's. And we certainly wish you well over the course of the next couple of days. I will see you in Biarritz, Bayonne, somewhere in a few days' time. Johnny, look forward to catching up with you soon. And, of course, we can get some previews this week on the Women's Rugby Pod, I'm sure.
Indeed so. Take care, both. Go well, Mo.
Lovely.
Thank
you both. There we are, a little pre-record earlier with the brilliant Johnny Hammond and with Mo Hunt. We've been joined, me and Jenny Murphy, by the fabulous LJ. Hi, Laura Jane. How are you?
Hello, I'm good. I've just
excellent
forced down my dinner because I was so hungry, but I've enjoyed this so much more because I haven't been hangry whilst I've been watching.
Well, we're grateful for that. How much fun was it watching Mo surprise Johnny by asking him a couple of questions?
Yeah, very funny. She's become a real journalist over the course of this Six Nations. And if nothing else, the Nick and Mo show has meant that we've got a Paxman in our midst.
Yeah. Well, look out, because Jenny's learned from the best. So, I don't know what might
Spanish Inquisition time, Nick. Ready. It's going to be all the tough questions.
I don't know what might be coming your way. LJ, you were down in Cardiff on Friday. We're going to close out with a few of your visuals in a couple of minutes. But what have you made of the round 4 weekend as a whole?
Do you know, it's a really interesting one. I thought that Wales were poor actually on Friday by their own standard. They've set this Six Nations, and I think that despite coming away with a tighter scoreline than the one against England, I think that they were better against England than they were against France. I thought they were just a bit loose in places, and I think probably by their own standards. I do think that kickoff time is a difficult one, and obviously, Jenny, when you go over to France, you're going to play late in the evening, but it must be a very odd feeling to play at that time of a Friday night at home when it's such an alien thing. We don't do it. We've done it for a French audience in Cardiff in the men's Six Nations. That's why it's been mirrored in the women's this year. I'm not sure why they decided to mirror it. The other kickoff times haven't mirrored the men's. Why they decided to go for Friday night baffles me. I don't think it was a good idea. And I think we've proven that isn't the slot to get fans in. But I wonder what impact that had on the players as well, just that Friday evening kickoff. I didn't think France were amazing. And I think that England will stick. I think it'll be 20 points, the gap. Yeah. I think England will go big again this weekend. I just think it's really interesting. I said to the girls afterwards, you have to prioritize, get this out of your heads now and think about beating Italy next weekend so you can be the best of the rest, because there is this 2-tier championship, as we keep talking about, but it's almost 3-tiered in that England is so far and above everyone else now. And I think that will be proven this weekend against France. I could have egg on my face here. We could come away from this and France could beat them, but I don't think anyone's going to.
Well, it was probably a good week to bring Jenny as my co-host, because this might be the week where I say it delicately. I'd quite like France to win, because it would measure the success of England relative to where France are. I don't think France have had the foot on the throat and pushed a full 80-minute 50-pointer enough over the course of this championship. I think they've got their 5 bonus points. They've then kind of shut up shop. That's to take nothing away from the likes of Scotland, who won the second half against them. But I'm just not sure the French have decided to be that ruthless. And for the sake of a Rugby World Cup year and a pool game later in the year, then I think it would be a good result in the context of the women's game for France to get a result on the weekend. But yeah, I'm beginning to think like you. I'm not sure it's entirely happening. Jenny, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think France away from home is a different beast, especially when you go down south. When the crowd gets behind them, like it is tough, and they let you know that they are right there behind the girls. But also, it's bloody amazing to play down there too, and you definitely tighten up and want to do a job. Which teams are playing better at the moment? England by far. They've looked more clinical. They've put I think they've been really smart with even how they played. It's like they've sometimes tried to like send the ball out wide a little bit too much, probably against Ireland. But then we're like, right, what works? Set piece. Let's smash them there. Let's dominate, and then they start rocking up. I can't see France's scrum or France's line out deal with that driving maul that England have gone to. Regardless of whether they've got that home side beside them. And in saying that as well, I don't think France have been tested that much either. But like England against Ireland in the first half, I think they were expecting it to be a little bit easier. They had a word with themselves at halftime and then came out looking so dangerous. They'll want to start so much stronger, like right from the blocks against this French home side, and just nullify any chance, any crowds, any kind of singing going on. So it's really difficult for me to look past this English side at the moment, because they're playing some really good rugby, and I don't think France they don't seem to have the head to deal with it at the moment.
It's interesting, Jenny, when you say about half time in the game on the weekend, it's the way that England have this ability to then go up through the gears when they need to. And I think in the England-Wales game, when the Abby Dow injury happened, they regrouped at that point, and it was then, okay, like let's actually put our foot down, and they can go so much further than everyone else. And I do think that's where we will see the gap on the weekend. And it's interesting, Nick, that you say you want to see, or perhaps would like to see, a France win, or wouldn't mind seeing a France win. But actually, when Jenny says about going down to France and playing in that environment where you know the crowd is so behind you, what better preparation for England than to go to the defending champions of the World Cup in their backyard later this year? This is the one of the most important matches they'll play, not just because France are their pool opponents, but because they could be playing New Zealand at Eden Park in a semi-final later this year, in a final later this year. So this game is incredibly important in lots of facets. It's not just the opposition, I think.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
When I was thinking back to like 2017, the last World Cup, and England had kind of set out their team, and you knew this was the team that was going to be playing in a World Cup. And France went about it quite differently, that they changed and chopped a lot. So when they arrived at the World Cup, they were very different, and they played a very different style of rugby. So I wouldn't be surprised either if France were, we'll give this a crack, but World Cup being very much their focus, because we know like this is England's starting team. They have a clearer idea of who's going to be in the 15. And with the French team, I'm still like, there's still the spine of players that I'm not quite sure are they going to be there in the match day either. And like it's a nice thing to have, to be able to pick from so much depth from both sides. But it's going to be an interesting game. I'm very jealous that you're getting some sun and going to see it live.
I can only suggest that the weather might not be as great. I've yet to double check the forecast. Interestingly, I have just had a WhatsApp message, because I think my regular co-host is watching our stream, having arrived in France, saying, "I can't believe you wouldn't mind a France win." So I've been totally rumbled.
You're going to get one of that.
I know, well, who knows? No, probably not. So that's good. One thing I thought I would, if for anybody who hasn't seen it, by the way, we've got a little clip coming up in just a second. It is from our friends at The Good, The Scaz, The Rugby, the brilliant Elmer Smith, of course, who hosts that show alongside Emily Scarratt. There's The Good, The Bad, The Rugby, which has James Haskell in it. And James was there at the game at the weekend. And I think while we're always looking for allies in the game and people with big personalities, big followings, to also show that they're paying attention to the women's game, I thought it was brilliant. There was a great exchange going on between Elmer and Emily Scarratt. It's worth catching up with on their channels. But here's just a bit of what James Haskell had to say at the weekend.
Here's a little secret, right?
Please.
So when I come to games like this, when we go to normal sort of male-orientated game, lots of alpha males in the stand saying weird things, slapping me around. Here, everyone's super polite, everyone's really lovely, absolutely no noises. And I walked past one girl and she went, "You need to look more fabulous." And I was like, "Do I?"
Yes, darling,
She glittered me up. I have felt sensational the whole day. I've had a lovely time. Everyone's so polite. I am never going to go back to a men's game ever again. The rugby was better. The chat was better. The sun was shining. I look fabulous. And Emmy's got 100 cats. What more do you honestly need?
There we go. That's the very shy and reserved James Haskell. And, while we're talking...
If Haskell wants more of the banter, the Tryhards are doing a live watch-along on Saturday in Chiswick. So
I was about to say, if we're promoting one other friend of ours, then we certainly need to give you the platform to tell us about this watch party. So go on, LJ.
So if you can't be in France this weekend, let's be honest, all of us, no matter what nation we're from, want to be at this England-France game, Le Crunch. If you can't be there and you are in the Greater London area, Southwest London, in Chiswick on Saturday, the Tryhards will be hosting with Fanzo and Guinness a watch party. We've got some amazing guests. We can't really reveal them till a little bit later this week, but trust me, get your tickets now. They are free. They are available on our social channels. So go to Tryhards on Twitter and you'll find it. There it is. And come and join us. A few pints of Guinness, bit of fun and great chat, obviously.
Yeah, good, obviously. All right, Jenny, is there anything you want to promote before I do the round 5 fixtures?
Absolutely nothing. No, my house is going to kill me if I don't head off to lunch soon. So I'm doing nothing exciting. Sorry, guys.
All right. Well, just be better. Yeah, be better there. All right. Let's bring in the round 5 fixtures then, so that we can see how Super Saturday will go. It kicks off with Wales against Italy. Plenty to get our teeth into there. That is an early midday kickoff on Saturday. Then France against England. Le Crunch. That's a 3:15 kickoff local time of France. 2:15 British summertime over here for tuning in, or if you're heading to Chiswick to join LJ and Nolly. And then at 8 o'clock, Ireland against Scotland will round things off. The exciting thing for those of us in Bayonne and Biarritz is that we get to do the second game, then do the post-match, and then hopefully hightail it to somewhere in Biarritz to catch the Ireland-Scotland game. It's going to be a tough old evening, that's for sure. Predictions then, how is the last round going to go? Jenny, let's go with you first of all.
I'm going to go Wales to get the win. I'm going to go Ireland to get the win. And I'm going to go England to get the win. Yeah.
There we go. LJ?
I'm going Wales, England, Scotland.
I'm not going to that gig now. Just definitely not. Pass.
No.
Sorry.
Yeah. Harsh.
They desperately need it. And they've been promising it.
There's no facial expression change from Jenny at all, which is excellent. Glad we're making friends and influencing people here on the Nick and Mo show. LJ, as ever, thank you very, very much indeed. Jenny, it's been brilliant having you co-host. I hope we get the chance to do it again.
Yeah, no, thanks very much for having me. It was pretty good crack. The ending obviously was a bit of a downer. Thanks, LJ. Yeah. But apart from that, pretty solid.
Looks like you'll have a gig here next season because Nick and Mo won't be speaking to each other after he wants to answer it. So I can't wait for the Nick and Jenny show 2023. It's going to be a blast.
Exactly. It's all set up beautifully. So my thanks to Jenny, to Rachel as well, to Johnnie, to Finding Mo as well earlier on, and of course to LJ. We will leave you ahead of Super Saturday with LJ's little compilation of how things unfolded in Cardiff on Friday. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you all, and we'll see you soon.
Did what I had to do and this is enough for me. Never meant to be a winner, never meant to be a quitter, but this is how I lose satisfaction. Chip thrills, chip tricks. It seems like the way I live. Said I should be a big shot. Said